Welcome back to Hot Air, the show where we gather around the flaming trash barrel that is American politics. Yes, I'm back to politics today. We're going to roast a marshmallow and say, wow, what a beautiful, horrifying glow this dumpster fire is. And it's just me today, but in December, we've got some guests coming. So this might be one of our last little politics roundup episodes for a hot minute. And truly, I'm down with these solo episodes. At first, I was like, no one wants to listen to me. But I could just talk by myself forever. You know, we just need one voice, one point of view, and one person brave enough to say, wait, they did what? The fuck did they do this time? So this episode is going to be a ride, and unfortunately not a very fun ride like Space Mountain at Disneyland or Disney World, where you scream and you laugh and then you buy a picture at the end. This is one that is rickety as hell, a county fair ride, if you will, put together by two dudes named Rusty and Earl, where you hear the screws loosening while you're mid-air and then your roller coaster goes right off the rails. That's what the essence of this episode is today. We are covering August through October of 2025, the era that historians will someday call the summer of nope. And everything in here has been fact-checked, verified, and sadly not satirical, despite sounding like the plot of a badly written dystopian fanfic film. So, get comfy as you can, hydrate a little bit, give those hamstrings a little stretch, maybe have a snack, preferably something crunchy so you can channel your rage into chewing. And also, Thanksgiving was just yesterday if you're listening to this on Friday after Thanksgiving. So hope everybody had a lovely Thanksgiving. Moving into the holiday season, so the episode topics are going to shift. I've got some really exciting topics to explore, some exciting guests coming on in December, January, and February to switch things up a little bit. So we're not going to be super heavy politics focused. I'm still going to do these roundup videos as things come up, but it's not going to be like a weekly thing unless it's something very important. Also, before we get into it, if you're watching on YouTube, you can look over my shoulder. Brooklyn, hey, little dog. Oh, you can only see, oh, she's peeking over the chair. That's her bed down there. She just ticked me off. She's just licking the floor, yet again, interrupting my focus here. Chihuahuas are weird, so you chill out down there. We have important things to talk about. So anyway, as I was saying, grab something crunchy, something you can channel your rage into chewing, and let's hit it. All right, so we're going to start the 12th of August, 2025, the Smithsonian, but make it straight. On August 12th, 2025, the day the administration woke up, looked at the Smithsonian, that's very hard to say, looked at the Smithsonian Institution, yes, the big fancy museum foundation with the dinosaur bones and the rocket ships and the first lady's gowns, and basically said, hey, are you being queer without my permission? The administration orders a full review of the Smithsonian to determine whether it aligns with the administration's standards. Now, historically, the Smithsonian standard has been tell the truth about American history and culture, but apparently now the standard is make it straight, make it beige, and for the love of God, no glitter. The exhibits that they targeted? Oh, they went straight for the jugular. Exhibits on transgender athletes, ballroom drag history, the evolution of LGBTQIA plus identities in America, or, as the rest of us know it, the accurate historical record of people who exist. And then they took special issue with a painting of a black trans Statue of Liberty displayed in the National Portrait Gallery. A painting, a piece of art, a symbol that literally embodies freedom and identity, two things that apparently cause allergic reactions in certain political circles. And yes, the artists eventually withdrew it because sometimes you just don't want your art dragged through the mud by people who have never voluntarily entered a museum unless it was for a press photo. But wait, because the day is still young. On the same day, the State Department drops its newly revised 2024 Human Rights Report, and I've talked about this in the previous episode of Hot Air. And by revised, I mean they edited out LGBTQ plus people entirely, like literally removed any mention of discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. Imagine erasing an entire community of millions with a keystroke, just deleting us like a typo. They also removed critiques of foreign governments mistreating LGBTQ plus communities, which, for context, is literally the point of the Human Rights Report. It's like rewriting the fire department handbook and deleting the part about fires. This level of gaslighting should come with a health warning because at this point, the nation's collective mental state is crispy, fully toasted, marshmallow on fire energy. And if you want to know more about that Human Rights Report, you can listen to, I think, 2 episodes ago of Hot Air. We'll fast forward a little bit to the 15th of August, 2025. The budget cuts with a little bit of homophobia sprinkled on top. So 3 days later, August 15th rolls in like, hey girl, are you free? Because I brought more chaos. And first, budget cuts. Massive ones. The administration had already been bragging about reducing the federal workforce, and now the receipts show up. $600,000 cut from the DC Office of LGBTQ plus Affairs for 2026. $600,000. This isn't removing a decorative fountain. This is removing an office that helps actual people, youth, elders, housing programs, crisis response, the whole deal. And before you even finish absorbing that hit, the administration announces a plan to completely eliminate gender-affirming care coverage from the federal employees' health benefits programs starting in 2026. So we're talking over 8 million people, federal employees and their families, losing coverage. Hormones, gone. Surgeries, gone. Supportive medical care, gone. Thousands of trans workers who literally keep the country functioning, park rangers, analysis, postal workers, scientists, teachers, the entire ecosystem, now told, actually, we don't want to cover your healthcare because we suddenly remembered that the 1950s existed and we would like to go back. It's always fascinating when the people who scream small government also want to control what happens inside of your bloodstream. The gag is, gender-affirming care is safe, established, evidence-based, medically essential, and supported by every major medical association in the country. But sure, let's trust the administration that once tried to buy Greenland. Did we forget about that already? Remember? They wanted Greenland? Like, the fuck? This move also positions the federal government as the largest employer in the nation to explicitly deny medically necessary care to a marginalized group. And if you thought that was the end of it, don't worry. That was just the warm-up. We're moving on to the 21st of August, 2025. Sex ed? Not if it mentions gender. August 21st enters like the Kool-Aid man bursting through the walls. Like, oh yeah. Remember that voice? I wonder how deep I can go. Oh yeah. That's as butch as we get. Okay, but like not a fun Kool-Aid man. So first up, the Department of Health and Human Services slashes $12 million in federal funding for California's Personal Responsibility Education Program, which provides sex ed to teens statewide. And why? Because the state would not remove lessons referencing, brace yourself, radical gender ideology, which is political code for acknowledging that trans people exist in real life. So instead of funding evidence-based education that reduces teen pregnancy and empowers young people to make safer decisions, the administration decides teenagers should be punished for the existence of trans people. Make that make sense. Incredible priorities, clearly, but the plot thickens. Again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Supreme Court, yes, SCOTUS, which we've talked about many a time, upholds an executive order directing the National Institute of Health to cut more than 1,700 grants, nearly 200 of which were for HIV and AIDS research treatment. This is not a small trim. This is the biggest haircut since Britney in 2007. Cutting HIV and AIDS research is not only dangerous, it turns back the clock decades. These programs literally save lives. These grants fund frontline care. This research prevents infections. And then, as if we weren't already spiraling, the New York Times reports that the administration plans to withhold more than half of the $6 billion Congress allocated for PEPFAR, the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, a program credited with saving over 25 million lives globally. It's bipartisan, beloved, effective, and one of America's actual success stories in global health. Cutting it is like saying, hey, see this thing that works? Let's not see it. Let's ignore it. And the through line, every move hits queer people. All of these things affect queer people, especially queer youth and people living with HIV. It hits them the hardest. But sure, tell me again how this is about protecting children. I want to keep saying make that make sense, but nothing will make it make sense. So we're moving on to the 17th of September, 2025. The CDC tries science and fails. On September 17th, the CDC puts out new priorities. Those are in big quotation marks. And let me tell you, these read less like scientific guidance and more like the world's worst Dear Abby column. They declare that biological sex is unchangeable, which is not how science works. If you looked at any high school biology book from the last 30 years, you would know that sex is complex, not binary, and definitely not unchangeable. But the new priorities also say that the CDC will protect children by deprioritizing trans healthcare programs. So, to paraphrase, we love kids, so we are removing support for the kids who need it the most. This is like saying you're cleaning your house by throwing out the smoke detectors. And on we go. The 19th of September, 2025. Passports, art, and NYC, baby. Just 2 days later, on September 19th, the administration petitions the Supreme Court to reinstate its passport rule requiring sex designations match birth certificates. A lower court had blocked the rule, allowing trans and non-binary people to use X markers or IDs aligned with their gender. So the administration went full no fun allowed. You're not allowed to do it. And instead, they said, actually, you should have to out yourself every time that you travel. Same day, a federal judge blocks the administration from withholding National Endowment for the Arts grants to groups they claim promote gender ideology. The judge basically says, sir, that is not how the First Amendment works. And love that for us, so that's good. And then we hear that the Department of Education is threatening to withhold $15 million from New York City magnet schools unless they repeal their trans-inclusive policies. So, punishing schools for letting kids feel safe, punishing schools for respecting students' identities, punishing schools for not being discriminatory enough. This era is a parody of itself. It's absolutely, I was going to say asinine. Does that work here? It's asinine. I think it does. And next up, we've got the 1st of October. We're forging ahead in time here. The FBI pride flag situation. I'm just going to briefly recap this. I did a bunch in my previous news roundup episode. But October 1st rolls in with a brand new drama. The FBI director, Kash Patel, fires a trainee for displaying a small pride flag on his desk. And the reason, according to Kash Patel, was that it was improper political messaging. Apparently, at the FBI, personal symbols or identities are political. But combing through internal files to identify LGBTQ plus employees, which sources say appointees have been doing, is not political. The irony could power a small town here. Seriously. Kash Patel intentionally found who identified openly as LGBTQ plus in their internal system and targeted them. And if you want to learn more about that, because the guy that was fired, the trainee, is suing Kash Patel, the DOJ, Pam Bondi, and the FBI. So definitely listen to last week's episode of the News Roundup. Now, a few days later, 10th of October, the layoff massacre. Dun, dun, dun. It sounds very heavy and it's not fun. On October 10th, the administration announces sweeping layoffs at the Department of Education. They target roles overseeing civil rights, overseeing grants, disability services, because of course they did. LGBTQ plus youth who already face higher risks of homelessness and housing insecurity lose key federal protections overnight. A judge temporarily blocks the layoffs 5 days later, but the damage is clear. This administration sees civil rights offices as completely optional. Then, the White House lays off more than 1,100 employees at HHS. And get this, they eliminate the Office of Population Affairs entirely. This office ran Title X family planning, teen pregnancy prevention programs, and LGBTQ plus health initiatives. Gone, deleted, like a photo that you regret sending to your ex. And again, right on brand for this administration. Next up, we have the 30th of October. HHS proposes 2 of the worst rules yet. On October 30th, NPR reveals draft text of 2 upcoming HHS rules. 1, a proposal to prohibit Medicaid reimbursement for gender-affirming care for anyone under 18. The other, to block all Medicare and Medicaid funding for hospitals that provide gender-affirming care to minors. Meaning, if a hospital offers life-saving care to trans youth, they could lose millions or even shut down. The goal is crystal clear: not protecting children, but preventing them from accessing evidence-based care supported by every relevant medical organization in the country. And again, the through line for all of these, everything I just went through, the LGBTQ plus community. And that, my friends, was August through October 2025, a 3-month political hurricane where every single gust of wind somehow hit the LGBTQ plus community directly in the face. Like, talk about Wizard of Oz shit here. If you feel exhausted, angry, fired up, or ready to throw your phone into the sea, the ocean, the lake, a pond, a puddle, you're in the right place. The goal of this episode isn't to terrify you. It's to make sure that we understand how fast these policies were moving, because some of this stuff I didn't even know until I started doing a little bit more research. It's important to know how wide the impact is, and of course, important to stay loud, stay informed, and stay connected, and stay, proud. Be proud of who you are if you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, and if you're an ally, also be proud. Even when the government tries to yank the rainbow flag right out of our hands, our cold dead hands, we find another pole and fly it even higher. And this has been Hot Air with me, your host, Josh. I don't even know if I said my name in the first place, but make sure you're following me on social media at _hotairpod. That is on TikTok and Instagram. You can head on over to my website, hotairwithjoshuarobert.com, to submit your listener stories or topic suggestions. And I know this was a very short episode of Hot Air. Like, truthfully, I'm in the middle of making cupcakes and also packing for Thanksgiving and cleaning my apartment, packing up my dog stuff, all the other things. Now I got to go snuggle my dog because I yelled at her because she was driving me crazy. So this is just a very short episode. It's Friday after all. You don't want to listen to me jibber jabber for too long. So take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I hope everyone had a great holiday and is continuing to celebrate and eat lots of pie. And remember, the hotter the air, the higher we rise. And I will see you next Tuesday.